Zoom now. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Just give us your reaction overall to that budget speech.
I was pleasantly surprised by what some of the ministers said. I just want to pick up a few points on what he said was the hopeful thing for him. The framework that supports the economy and public health services. Everybody's been talking about the 10 billion rand allocated to COVID, because the economic recovery that he quotes globally is fueled by the sense that the pandemic is coming under control. Vaccines have been rolled out. So rolling out vaccines in South Africa gives us a fighting chance, in the sense that if we keep the economy open, we've seen the devastation caused by the lockdown globally and especially here in South Africa, with the unemployment rate where it is now, with the tax revenue having a shortfall of over 200 billion. So getting the vaccine going and getting the economy fully functional again is something that I picked up as something that he says is hopeful, and I agree with him on that. We need to get that rolling. And the contingency being increased by 7 billion to 12, that's good news. The improved economic outlook for me is contingent upon us not getting a curveball, either from the vaccine or anything else in the country. He talks about the economy recovering in 2021 to 3.3% alongside the global recovery. We just need to understand that the level of output itself hasn't really increased to levels compared to at least 2019. And going forward, we are seeing what for South Africa is normal growth, but it's quite anemic. He's talking about a 1.9 increase in the GDP rate. That is not nearly enough to counteract the unemployment rate that we've seen, the highest that we've seen in years, 32% plus. In terms of putting some numbers towards the State of the Nation address by the President, I was encouraged to see that there's some demonstrable achievements that he's mentioned. The increase in infrastructure spend is going to improve the road network. But a little zinger that he put in a small line there said it's only going to work if there's a pay per usage by the users of this infrastructure. I thought in my mind, I'm still going to have to find out, does it mean that people will have to, he's raising the toll gate debate again. So that was interesting for me. The transformation and job creation piece, 6.2 billion allocated there. That for me is encouraging, and as well as the piece that is putting on the number of employment opportunities that government is offering. That's quite important. But the other thing for me that was critical is the debt stabilization. He talks about it being stabilized at 88% in the next budget cycle. We were talking in October about potentially going to 100% of GDP. So that's encouraging, but that's premised on improved tax collection and on an unchanging consolidated expenditure over the next few years. Is that going to be the case? We'll have to wait and see. And that is contingent on what he said. I think one of the inserts that you heard earlier outside Parliament talked about this. The pity of it all is that they have to spend 1.8 billion rand that could have gone elsewhere to show up against corruption and aids us in terms of collecting taxes from South Africans. That's a pity in a country that doesn't have money, that corruption is so endemic that you have to set aside money from the budget to do that. So I think those were the highlights for me. Stabilize the debt so that your servicing costs do not consume what you need to spend on GDP and on social services.
Tendani Mantshimuli from Liberty, thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon, giving us her reaction to budget there. Let's get some more reaction from CEO of Busa, Cass Kovadia, who joins me now. Thank you for your time on SABC News this afternoon. Your reaction to the budget that Finance Minister Tito Mboweni just delivered.
I'm going to be very quick because I've been waiting for about 20 minutes and my time is gone. So I think it was a good budget overall, and Treasury usually understand the crisis we are in tries to put us onto a sustainable growth path. But there are a number of issues. One, the budget is predicated on sound economic growth, and economic growth is only going to happen when we make the necessary structural reform intervention in the economy to create an environment for investment, without which we're not going to get growth. We welcome the corporate tax decrease. We think that that will help encourage some growth and some investment, both local and global, and we think that is useful. I think the aggressive path toward getting us into a surplus situation by 24-25 needs to be welcomed. But again, the budget can only do so much. It's essentially telling us how much money we're going to raise and how we're going to allocate those monies. The important part is for the departments to actually implement and deliver, and we've seen time and time again them falling short on that. And we'll have to see in the next few months whether, or after the funds are allocated, whether the departments actually utilize those funds both appropriately for the reason that they've been allocated and without any corruption creeping.
Kaskovadia, CEO of BUSA, thanks so much for your time, and our apologies for keeping you waiting as we got reaction from MPs and people in Cape Town after that budget speech. It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more reaction after that. Do stay with us on Point.